Hello, beautiful people of the internet. How are you doing today? My name is Jackie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is going to be the start of my Cloak and Dagger Christmas reading vlog. In this vlog, I'm going to be reading several mysteries for the Cloak and Dagger Christmas Readathon 2022. If you want to see my entire TBR and the different prompts, you can go watch the video I posted about that. There are also several activity prompts that you can do for this readathon, and I will probably try to do some of those in this vlog as well. I can't promise I'll get to all of them, but I'm definitely going to attempt a couple. It is already December 8th, so it is past time that I start this video, and I already finished my first book for the readathon. Unfortunately, I did not like it. I read Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. This was for the prompt read a book with an alliterative title. I was so excited to read this book. Let me tell you, I've enjoyed Alice Feeney's other books, and the concept of this one was really interesting to me. This is an And Then There Were None style mystery thriller following this family who all gather at a tidal island to celebrate the grandmother's 80th birthday, but over the course of the evening they start to be picked off one by one and they cannot escape because the tides have come in and there's no way to get back to the mainland until morning. So it sounded really good, and Then There Were None is one of my favorite books. However, I ended up giving this a 2. It was a massive disappointment, and I feel kind of bad because in her author's note, Alice Feeney says that this is her favorite out of all the books that she's written, and it was the one of hers that I liked the least. All of her other books got at least 4 stars from me, and this one was just not it. This book has several twists and also like a much smaller reveal that's not really relevant to the main mystery plot. 3 out of those 4 I predicted very easily, and then the 4th one I didn't see coming, and in retrospect I do think it was kind of clever how Alice Feeney pulled it off, but I still did not really love it. Another thing is I feel like all of the twists in this book remind me of famous twists from other pieces of media. I am obviously not going to spoil what those pieces of media are because that would spoil both this book and the original stories. But I will say, I think this book would be more surprising if you haven't read Agatha Christie, because Alice Feeney mimics 2 extremely famous Agatha Christie plot twists in this book. So I think because I already knew those stories, it was very easy for me to guess where she was going with this. I actually gave this book to my mom to read after I finished it, and she did not see those twists coming, but when I explained to her how they're very similar to Agatha Christie twists, she said, yeah, I can see how you would have predicted that, knowing that. And so I think this book is probably going to be a lot more enjoyable for someone who hasn't read those, because I think if you don't have that in the back of your mind, you won't see them coming. But because I did, it was pretty straightforward. I feel like this book is so hard to talk about without spoiling it because I really just want to discuss the twists in depth. Maybe I'll do a little spoiler section for those of you who have read it. The other major complaint I have with this book is I felt like every single character was extremely one-dimensional, and none of them felt realistic to me at all. The book begins with our main character, Daisy Darker, talking about how she was born with a broken heart, and we find out that she has some very rare heart defect that is never named, so I don't know what the heart defect was supposed to be or if it's even a real condition. And the whole thing just screamed melodrama to me. The characters are very easy to sum up in a single sentence. I feel like almost all of them have no real complexity. Daisy's sister Lily in particular is just 100% awful with pretty much no redeeming qualities, and I feel like at times the text also bordered on slut-shaming her, which I was not really into. It gave me a bad vibe. Like, it seemed like they were very judgmental over her sexual partners and her clothing choice, and it's like, but that's none of your business. Like, enjoying sex and wearing revealing clothing doesn't make you a bad person. Like, it just didn't leave a good taste in my mouth. Okay, I guess I will do spoilers here for people who have read this or just don't care and don't mind being spoiled. So, first of all, the very small twist is that we find out that Connor, the boy that all the sisters were infatuated with growing up, is the father of Lily's child. And I felt like that was super obvious. First of all, he was really the only character in the book who could have been the father. And also, we find out that Daisy caught them having sex. And then, after that's revealed, Daisy still doesn't put the two pieces together and realize that he's the daddy. So I was like, connect the dots. Like, come on. Then, the three big reveals in the book. We find out that Daisy is actually dead, and she's been dead this entire time. And I will say I think it was clever how Alice Feeney pulled this off, because when I went back and reread the earlier chapters, I realized that there were so many signs that I just missed because, you know, in my mind, I was assuming that all the characters in the book were alive, so I wasn't looking out for those little details. But going back, knowing the twist, I could see how she led me astray and all the assumptions that I had made without realizing it. I still did not love that as a twist because it very much reminded me of a certain famous film. And I'm not gonna say the name of the film in case you haven't seen it because it's a great movie, but it's basically the exact same twist. And so I was not super impressed. Like, you know, I've seen that before. The identities of the two people who are behind the murders in this book, to me, was very, very obvious. They were my two #1 suspects. I suspected them pretty much the entire time. We find out that Nana faked her own death at the beginning of the book, and that Trixie, the seemingly sweet, innocent daughter of Lily, is also in a league with her, basically to get revenge against the family because they feel like the family did not care about Daisy enough. And Rose, Lily, and Connor were all in the car that hit Daisy the night she died years ago. And this to me was very obvious because of two famous Agatha Christie twists. I suspected Trixie because she is the one member of the family who Daisy says is such a sweet girl, and she's really the only one who doesn't have any extremely obvious character flaws. So I figured that makes sense. She seems like someone you shouldn't suspect, therefore she is suspicious. And also, I really thought that maybe Nana was faking her death because this book is pitched as being like And Then There Were None, and that's what happens in that book. I also thought it was kind of silly, so when Daisy finds out that Nana is still alive, she says, "But Rose checked your pulse and she said that you were dead." And Nana says, "Well, yeah, but I just did a lot of meditation so I could still my own heartbeat." I didn't really buy it. It seemed kind of dumb to me. It sucks that I have to start off Cloak and Dagger Christmas on this note. I really thought that I was going to love this book, and I was hoping it would be a 5-star read. I will say, I have seen some people say that they loved this book and it's their favorite Alice Feeney book. I do think if you are not as familiar with Agatha Christie, you might enjoy it more because you just won't know what to expect. But you should read Agatha Christie because she's awesome. She's the queen of crime, so you should definitely read her books, especially And Then There Were None. Just mind-blowingly amazing mystery. Speaking of Agatha Christie, this weekend I'm going to film another Trying to Solve Agatha Christie video on Lord Edgware Dies. I am so excited for it. I've been looking forward to this all week long, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So last night I started reading Lord Edgware Dies by Agatha Christie, and now tonight I am going to start filming another Trying to Solve Agatha Christie video. I went to Walmart today and bought this whiteboard, so this is going to be my new crime-solving whiteboard. I have the book right here, and I got some different colored markers. So I'm going to do like a color-coded thing. So, oh my god, I am so excited for this. This is going to be such a fun video to make. Hello. So I am not doing a great job at vlogging this month because I have read 2 more books and this is the first that I am talking to you all about them. but that's okay. So since we last spoke, I have finished reading Lord Edgware Dies by Agatha Christie. This was for the Mystery with Nobility in It prompt. And I also read Death Comes to Bath by Catherine Lloyd. Yes, by Catherine Lloyd, and this was for the buddy read prompt. I read this together with my mother. First, Lord Edgware Dies. I filmed an entire video where I tried to solve this one. The video honestly like kind of flopped. Nobody watched it and I'm really upset about it, so I'm gonna go link it in the card. Like, please watch this video. I know it's really long, but I had a lot of fun making it, so don't let my investigative efforts be in vain. I really struggled with what to rate this. I don't think I ever gave it a star rating on Goodreads. I will say the mystery in this, I never saw the ending coming. I fell for every single red herring that Agatha Christie tried to trick me with, and she succeeded. I did not see the ending coming. I think the reason I'm not sure if I want to give this 5 stars is I think I personally really love the Agatha Christie books that, in addition to a great mystery, also sometimes have a little bit of wit and levity to them, and I don't feel like this one really did. There are other Agatha Christie books where I think the dialogue is just so delightful, and she says things that I genuinely think are really funny and amusing, and I don't know if I would describe this book as amusing. I think it's pretty serious, and I wish maybe there had been like a little bit of a lighter touch in some parts. I say that in one of my favorite books of all time is And Then There Were None, which really is not very witty or light at all. It's also pretty serious, but I don't know. I just think when I finished reading this book, I wished maybe it had had a few more lighthearted moments, because this did feel like a very serious book, and I just missed some of that lovely, witty Christie dialogue in this. But my God, was the mystery really well done. So I'm not saying I didn't like it. It's either a 4 or a 5. Let's just say 4.5, you know? Then I read Death Comes to Bath. This is part of the Curland St. Mary mystery series. This was the first book in the series that I read, and after finishing it, I don't think I'm going to go back and read the other books in the series. This was a 3-star book for me. I liked it fine, but there were a lot of issues that I had with it, and so I kind of just have mixed feelings about it overall. This is a mystery series set in the Regency period. I believe the year is 1822, and the main characters are Robert and Lucy Curland. They travel to Bath because Robert's injury from the Battle of Waterloo has been acting up, so they think this will be a relaxing trip for his health to improve. And when they get to Bath, they become neighbors with this man named Sir William Benson and his family. Sir William is found dead in the baths, and Robert and Lucy take it upon themselves to figure out who killed him. Now, I do think there were some parts of this book that were amusing and some lines that got a little chuckle out of me. I think my problem with this book is I feel like the characters in the Benson family, to me, were just too over the top. They were just kind of like caricatures of Regency era stereotypes, and the biggest thing that bothered me is, you know, the Regency period, it's an era where people in the upper classes were very refined and composed, you know, your image was everything, and the Bensons are not at all subtle. They will just air out their dirty laundry to Robert and Lucy, these people they just met, unprompted. Like, Robert and Lucy do not even need to ask them questions to solve this mystery, because the members of the Benson family will just tell them all of their dirty secrets without Robert and Lucy having to do a thing. It just felt kind of ridiculous to me. And yes, we do have comments from Lucy where she's like, wow, what an unconventional family they are. But to me, it was just preposterous given the attitudes of this era that these people would be talking about their deepest and darkest secrets with people they just met. And also, I mean, think about it. Even now in the 21st century, would you tell someone you just met last week about how your stepmother once tried to seduce you? Like, no, like, you don't just share this kind of personal information with people you don't know that well. It just doesn't make sense. It felt like a plot convenience that I just wasn't really buying. I also guessed who the murderer was and what their motivations were for committing the crime, which, like, I wasn't super disappointed by, but, you know, it's always nice to be surprised by the ending of a mystery, and that didn't happen here. The other thing about this that disappointed me is the reason that my mom and I wanted to read this book together was because of the setting in Bath. I studied abroad in Bath. It's an amazing city. I would love to go back there. And the author even says in an author's note that she went to Bath while writing this book so that she could more accurately portray the locations that the characters would have visited. But I feel like this book is extremely light on descriptions, and that was disappointing. I feel like the city didn't come alive in the text, and honestly, I don't understand why the author went on this trip for research if she, like, wasn't gonna incorporate descriptions of anything. Like, I don't think there's any information about Bath in here that you couldn't have found in a Google search. I'm sorry, that sounds really mean, but she claims she went on this trip for research, and I'm like, okay. But, like, I don't see any of that in this book. Like, so I gave this 3 stars. I thought it was fine. If it sounds interesting to you, I wouldn't caution you against reading it, but I don't feel the need to read this series again. My mom also gave it 3 stars. She had very similar feelings to me, so it wasn't an okay book, but you know. All right, so that is it for this update. I'm going to try to get better at vlogging Cloak and Dagger Christmas. I have just been really busy lately, so much to do at work and so many things I need to get done. I think today though we're going to finally make some Christmas cookies, so that will be very festive and fun. So hello, the next book that I have started for the readathon is Dissolution by C.J. Sansom, the first in the Matthew Shardlake series. This is a series set in Tudor-era England. This first book takes place around the dissolution of the monasteries. I've read about 35% of this so far, maybe, so I thought I would give an update, because, you know, last time I didn't update you on any of the books until I already finished them, so I thought I would do an update now. The main character, Matthew Shardlake, is a lawyer, and he is sent by Thomas Cromwell to this monastery where an agent of Cromwell's has recently been murdered. There are things that I like about this and things that I don't like, so I'm not really sure what my overall thoughts are going to be. I like Matthew Shardlake as a main character fine. He is depicted as being a hunchback, which I find really interesting because I find, like, his experiences having a disability in this time period very interesting, and it makes me have a lot of empathy for him because this is a time period where being disabled, it's not fully understood, and people who have a disability like this are treated unfairly and also treated as if there's something inherently wrong with them, because being disabled in this time period, a lot of people saw it as, well, you've done something to make God upset with you, and he's given you this disability as a physical representation of a moral failing. Obviously, like, that's a super problematic view to have, but in this time period, there was not a understanding of disability, and so it is sad to see how he's been treated because of this entire life, but I do think it makes him an interesting character, and it helped me sympathize with him very early on in the story. I do not like the character of Matthew Shardlake's assistant, Mark. I think his name was Mark. I do not like him. He is very irritating, a bit of a womanizer, and he's also made several problematic comments, so not a fan of Mark. I am also having a bit of a hard time keeping the different brothers of the monastery straight in my mind. I'm having a hard time remembering which one is which. I just wish like maybe their characters were a little more distinct so that I could keep better track of them in my mind. And there is a little guide at the beginning of the book that like says who they are, but it doesn't have like a lot of information, so I keep looking back at it and it's still not really helping me, because I can remember the personal stories of the different brothers, and then I can also remember their different jobs in the monastery, but then I can't remember which job goes with which like backstory. I'm having a hard time keeping them straight. I keep saying to myself, wait, which one is that? Which one is he? So that's pretty much it so far. I'm interested to see where the mystery plotline is going to go. I have some hunches about who I think the murderer might be, but I don't really have any well-formed theories. It's more so there's just some people who I personally have picked out as suspicious, but we'll see where the story goes. Hello everyone! So I have finished reading Dissolution by C.J. Sampson. I finished reading it a couple days ago actually, and this ended up being a 3-star for me. I liked it, but not as much as I expected I would. I must confess, I did correctly guess who murdered Robin Singleton, Cromwell's commissioner, and I don't really have a good reason as to why I guessed. Just this one character, I thought this character is really suspicious. I don't know why, but I think they're the murderer. And then there were little comments along the way that I think I only picked up on because I already had a bad feeling about this person. I really think a lot of other people wouldn't have thought much of them, but because I was so dead set on this person, I noticed it and I just got more and more convinced that I was right. And then, yeah, I was right. I will say I did not know why this person would have murdered Robin Singleton. And once the explanation was given, I don't know if really there was enough information in the book to figure out that was the reason. I just really thought this character was suspicious and I didn't know why they would be the murderer, but I couldn't shake the feeling that they were responsible. And because I was already looking at this person, I noticed some very minor details that I think would have been very easy to miss and not think much of had I not already been suspicious of this person. I'm not gonna spoil it, but like I'll just make up a fake example. So let's just say you're reading a murder mystery and it's determined that the killer must have been left-handed based on the way the wound was given. There would be something along the lines of a passing comment about this person picking up a pen with their left hand. And maybe you wouldn't think much of about what hand they picked up the pen with, but because I was already suspicious, I was like, oh my God, they're left-handed, they could be the killer. It was sort of like that. That's not actually what it was. That was just a fake example to illustrate what I'm talking about. So that really didn't surprise me. I still didn't mind it as a reveal because I think it was a clever one and I could see how a lot of people wouldn't have seen it coming. Another thing I really surprisingly enjoyed was where Mark's character arc went. I told you all I really did not like him, and I was not expecting his storyline to go the way that it did, so that was surprising, and I liked what the author did there. I think Matthew Shardlake, the main character, there were things that I liked about him and also things that I didn't. Like I said, I did have a lot of sympathy for him as someone who is living with a disability in this society where disability is highly stigmatized and judged. So that did cause me to sympathize with him a lot. However, I don't feel like I felt deeply connected to him, and there were times where I found him slightly annoying. So in this book, it takes place after the execution of Anne Boleyn, and Matthew Shardlake is working for Thomas Cromwell, who was part of masterminding her demise. And because Anne Boleyn was falsely accused of adultery, several innocent men were accused of being her lovers and were also killed with her. This is something that is commonly known nowadays. Pretty much every scholar of the Tudor period believes that Anne Boleyn never actually committed adultery and it was all a kangaroo court, basically. However, Matthew Shardlake really holds firm that he doesn't believe Thomas Cromwell would have ever framed anyone, which, like, I mean, in all fairness, he doesn't know what I know. But while I was reading it, I was just like, honey, you got a big storm coming, okay? Like, the guy that you work for, he ain't the person that you think he is, sweetie. He framed these innocent people and killed them to achieve his political agenda. Like, oh, Matthew, wait till you find out what your boss is really up to, my man. And so it was a little annoying to me hearing him constantly stick up for Cromwell when I, as a modern day reader, know that what Matthew believes is not true. It made him seem a little naive, but also I am approaching this with 21st century knowledge, which he obviously would not have had if he were a real person, but whatever. I think there were things that I really liked about this, and I think the way the ending was constructed was well executed. I mean, if I was writing this book, I think I would have done something very similar to what this author did. I think it was very clever, and it was a great way, I think, of subverting readers' expectations. However, I feel like the characters did not connect with me on the deeper level I was hoping for. Also, I like a historical mystery with a bit of levity, and this one does not have that. I mean, Matthew Shardlake is a sympathetic guy, but he also doesn't have a sense of humor. He's a little woe is me, you know? So I feel like if I was hanging out with him in real life, I might get a little sick of him after a while, to be completely honest. I'm sorry. So I don't know if I'm going to continue with this series or not, but if you think it sounds interesting, I would encourage you to check it out. All right, and yesterday, finally, my library book came in, so I'm going to start reading The Fleet Street Murders by Charles Finch. This is one of his Charles Lennox novels set in Victorian England. This book takes place at Christmas, so I'm so excited to read it actually at Christmas. This is gonna be perfect. Hello everyone, Jackie here to wrap up this video. I know it's been a little while since I updated you. I was planning to film some while I was in North Carolina. My mom and I took a trip to Asheville to go see the Biltmore estate because I had some time off of work that they told me I had to use before the end of the year because I couldn't carry it over. So I figured if I have to take time off, might as well do something fun with it. I was going to just include footage from my trip in this vlog, but I ended up having a lot of video, so I think that's going to be its own video just dedicated to that trip. But because I was away and I was really busy, I did not update you all on my reading, and I've actually now finished 2 books, the last 2 books that I had to read for this TBR. So I read The Fleet Street Murders by Charles Finch. This is the 3rd in the Charles Lennox mysteries, and I will say you definitely need to read the previous books in this series before you read this one because it does spoil the previous books, and part of this plot really relies on you knowing the books that came before and who some of the characters are. If you just randomly picked up this book without having read the first 2, I think you would not understand what's going on. I gave this 3 stars. It ended up being my least favorite in the series so far, though it was not bad by any means. Basically, in this book, 2 journalists are murdered on the same evening, and so the police believe that the murders may be connected. Charles Lennox, our gentleman sleuth, is interested in the murders, but he is also currently running for parliament, and so that is also taking up a lot of his time. He said that now he's going to devote himself to a political career and leave detection behind, but he really just can't help himself. I think what I didn't like about this book is the storyline of Charles running for Parliament has nothing to do with the main mystery. I wish those two plots could have been connected in some way, because I was much more interested in the mystery than I was in the running for Parliament storyline. Honestly, I really didn't care that much about it. It just wasn't interesting to me. So I wish there could have been some kind of tie-in to make that relevant to the mystery, and that didn't happen. I think all in all, this book was entertaining, and what I really like about these mysteries is they're very easy to read and just fun and quick historical mystery books. But I didn't like how I feel like the plot in this one wasn't as smooth as it could have been. Like I said, I wish the storylines had been connected to just to make the overall plot feel like it fit together more. And there were also some subplots in this book that, again, I didn't know if they really went with the main mystery of the story, and I felt like maybe the author could have developed those subplots a little more. I can't say what they were because spoilers, but I'll just say there are some subplots involving characters we already met in the earlier books in the series, and I kind of just wanted a little more from those storylines, because I definitely feel like there was a lot more that could have been done there. They kind of felt a little bit tacked on. So this was a slight disappointment because I feel like the plot was not as cohesive as I would have liked it to be. However, it was still enjoyable, and I will keep reading this series. They're very fast, easy, and fun books. Then, in the past 3 days, I have read the entirety of The Widows of Malabar Hill, the first Perveen mystery book by Sujata Massey, and overall I really liked this. I gave this book 4 stars. This is a historical mystery set in 1920s Bombay, and the main character, Perveen, is Bombay's first female lawyer. I have never read a book set in British colonial India before, and I really enjoyed the setting and learning more about what life was like there at this point in history. I will say when I started reading the book, I was at times confused because the author would use words or phrases in languages like Hindi or Urdu that I did not know what they meant, but then I realized there was actually a glossary in the back of the book. And so once I realized that, reading it was a lot easier. So yeah. It was so interesting to learn more about this society, and I really was invested in Perveen and her backstory. It was really interesting to see what it would have been like to be a female solicitor in Bombay in this period, because women were not even allowed to appear in courtrooms. So even though she's a lawyer, she can never go to court. And when we see flashbacks to Perveen studying law at a university, she is the only female in her law classes, and at this point in time she wasn't even allowed to graduate because she was a woman. So she could attend the classes and get all the credits, but due to her gender she wasn't allowed to get the degree like the men could. The main mystery plotline in this book, it follows this case that Perveen and her father have been working on. She works at the law firm that her father owns because her father is the only man who will hire a female lawyer. No one else will give her a chance because of her gender. And her father has been representing this man named Omar Farid, and at the beginning of the book, Omar Farid has recently passed away, and so the mysteries are in charge of executing his will. Now, one thing that Perveen notices is that this man's wives, he had 3 wives, they've all signed documents saying they want to give the money that they're supposed to receive for their welfare to a charitable organization. And she thinks that's a little bit suspicious because what are they supposed to live on if they're giving all of their money away? So she thinks something sinister is afoot here. Now, these women live in purdah, which is basically something that some Muslim women could do, where they do not allow themselves to be seen by men other than their husband. It's basically a standard of modesty that some women set for themselves. Wow, I tripped over my words there. But because of that, these women have never really left their bungalow on Malabar Hill, and Praveen, as a woman, is able to go there and visit them, to talk to them like a man would not be able to do. There is an executor for the will who is a bit of a suspicious character. He has moved in with the women as the one that Mr. Farid appointed to control his estate. And once Praveen starts sniffing around the situation, a murder occurs. One thing I will say about this book is I feel like the murder mystery plot is not the main focus of the book. This book has a lot of flashbacks explaining Praveen's backstory and how she ended up where she is, the trials and tribulations she has had to overcome. And I found these flashbacks very interesting. I think Praveen was a very sympathetic character, and I enjoyed learning more about this time period and some of the traditions of the different groups living in Bombay at this point in time. So I thought it was very fascinating. However, if you really just want a mystery and you're not interested in the flashbacks, I don't think you're going to like this book, because the flashbacks took up a majority of the story and the mystery was kind of, in my opinion, the mystery was not the main focus of the book. It is a historical mystery, but I personally think the emphasis is on historical, not mystery. So if that's not really your thing, I don't know if you would like this. I wanted a little bit more from the mystery plot, and I think, I'm not entirely sure if it was fair play, because I feel like, in hindsight, looking back on the story, knowing who the murderer is, I don't know if there were enough clues for you to figure out everything yourself. I don't feel like if I read this book again, I would be like, oh my God, here was a clue that I missed. I don't feel like there really were that many clues. So I do wish maybe the mystery could have had some more clues and some more depth there, but the main character, her backstory, and the way that the author writes about 1920s Bombay, all of that I thought was really fascinating, and so that's why I gave the book 4 stars. I will be reading the sequel to this at some point. So everyone, that is it for my Cloak and Dagger Christmas reading vlog. I hope you had fun watching this video. Happy New Year to you all. If you participated in Cloak and Dagger Christmas, do let me know in the comment section. What books did you read? What was your favorite book of the month? I would really like to hear your thoughts. If you're still here and you just don't know what to comment, how about a firework emoji, because New Year's is coming up. So put a firework emoji in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me. I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. My social media links are down below if you want to follow me on Tumblr, Instagram, or be my friend on Goodreads. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, and I'll see you next time.